The state of Minnesota and the cities of Minnesota and St. Paul have just filed a federal lawsuit against the Trump regime. In this lawsuit, they say the Trump regime has engaged in an unlawful invasion of Minneapolis and St. Paul under the pretext of stopping fraud and federal law enforcement, when in fact this is an invasion. It is in retaliation because Minnesota is a blue state with a blue governor, with a blue mayor of Minneapolis, and this is a direct attack on the sovereignty of the state of Minnesota. And the cause of action brought by the state of Minnesota and its municipalities is brought under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. And essentially what Minnesota is arguing through its attorney general and what the cities are arguing is that their sovereignty, their ability to commandeer and to utilize its own law enforcement resources, to educate its people, to exist as a state and a city is now being interfered with by the federal government and by the ICE Gestapo, the ICE paramilitary forces, the Border Patrol Gestapo and paramilitary forces who have invaded the state and invaded the city. Now, law enforcement has to respond to ICE attacking the population versus dealing with the law enforcement issues that Minneapolis and St. Paul police should be dealing with. They have to respond to ICE attacking the citizens of the state. And states under the 10th Amendment are reserved certain rights and certain sovereignty, which is being infringed upon by the federal government. Also, people are terrified to show up to school, to leave their homes, to exist, to live, and that is being infringed upon by the federal government. Let's take a look at this lawsuit, and then I want to show you what Mayor Frey is saying, and then I want to show you what the Attorney General is saying. Attorney General Keith Ellison, who you've seen on the MeidasTouch network multiple times already. Just take a look at the lawsuit. Here's the introduction. In December 2025, the federal government initiated Operation Metro Surge, an unprecedented deployment of federal immigration enforcement agents from numerous agencies of defendant U.S. Department of Homeland Security to the state of Minnesota, including into the cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis. Operation Metro Surge has instilled fear among the people living, working, and visiting Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area, the Twin Cities. Thousands of armed and masked DHS agents have stormed the Twin Cities to conduct militarized raids and carry out dangerous, illegal, and unconstitutional stops and arrests in sensitive public places, including schools and hospitals, all under the guise of lawful immigration enforcement. Defendants claim this unprecedented surge of immigration agents is necessary to fight fraud. In reality, the massive deployment of armed agents to Minnesota bears no connection to that stated objective and instead reflects an alarming escalation of the Trump administration's retaliatory actions towards the state. Defendants claim to have deployed 2,000 DHS agents to the Twin Cities, a number that greatly exceeds the number of sworn police officers that Minneapolis and St. Paul have combined. Operation Metro Surge is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities. This operation is driven by nothing more than the Trump administration's desire to punish political opponents and score partisan points at the direct expense of plaintiffs' residents. Defendants' actions appear designed to provoke community outrage, sow fear, and inflict emotional distress, and they are interfering with the ability of the state and local officials to protect and care for their residents. After weeks of escalation, including a DHS agent shooting into an occupied vehicle on December 21st, 2025 in St. Paul, a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent shot and killed a Minneapolis resident on January 7th, 2026, Renee Nicole Good. The 10th Amendment gives the state of Minnesota and its subdivisions, including the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, inviolable sovereign authority to protect the health and well-being of all those who reside, work, or visit within their borders. The people of Minnesota are entitled to basic safety and dignity in their communities. They have the right to move about their daily lives, confident that their constitutional rights and civil liberties will remain intact and will not be infringed. They have the right to go to work, take their children to school, and move through public and private spaces free from fear of violence against themselves or their loved ones by their federal government. They are entitled to access the city services, use city facilities without being harassed by federal agents in parking lots. They expect that law enforcement, whether federal, state, or local, will follow the law, avoid creating dangerous and chaotic circumstances, and conduct itself in a manner that distinguishes officers from masked criminals. Indeed, being free from unlawful seizures, excessive force, and retaliation are not a list of aspirations Minnesota deserve. These are rights enshrined within the state and federal laws. While federal government itself violates legal rights and civic norms on such a broad scale, and panic is high, state and city governments bear the cost, both tangible and intangible. Defendants' agents' reckless tactics endanger the public safety, health, and welfare of all Minnesotans. Additionally, defendants' agents' inflammatory and unlawful policing tactics provoke the protests the federal government seeks to suppress. Then it talks about how deteriorating public trust in local law enforcement has serious consequences. It suppresses the reporting and prosecution of crime, especially for immigrant populations. Defendants' agents' tactics also sap state and local resources when local law enforcement officers are called away from their important work to respond to avoidable incidents defendants' agents cause. Plaintiffs bring this suit in court to enjoin or stop further legal violations and unlawful escalations by defendant and prevent further harms to plaintiffs. And so the main claim is a 10th Amendment claim that the 10th Amendment provides the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved for the states respectively or to the people. And it talks about plaintiffs have police powers. They have powers over their education. They have powers to run their cities. And that basic principles of federalism say that the federal government can't interfere with those functions. And it goes on to say that the sovereignty of Minnesota is being violated. And again, it talks about how the Operation Metro Surge has resulted in the Minneapolis Police Department and St. Paul Police Departments being pulled away from its normal law enforcement functions to respond to ICE attacking the population. So now, with that said, I want to show you what took place at the press conference moments ago. Here is Minneapolis Mayor Frey, and here's what he has to say. Let's play this clip.
Can't indiscriminately take people off our streets, American citizens off our streets. You cannot drag pregnant women through the snow. You're not allowed to take teenagers out of their car and detain them when they are in fact American citizens. That is against the law in every state. That is against our United States Constitution. And we're feeling the impact here in Minneapolis. Schools have closed. People are afraid to go to work, shop, or seek medical care. 911 calls are up. Police resources are indeed stretched thin.
And here he is again. Let's play this clip.
We have approximately 600 officers in the city of Minneapolis. Mayor Herr has approximately 600 officers in the city of St. Paul. The number of ICE agents and border control are now in the thousands. They are in the thousands. If the goal was immigration enforcement, if the goal were simply to look for people that are undocumented, Minneapolis and St. Paul would not be the place where you would go. There are countless more people that are undocumented in Florida and Texas and Utah. Why are they in these much smaller cities in the middle of the Midwest? The answer is very clear. It is politics. Florida and Texas and Utah are Republican states. The reason that Minnesota and Minneapolis are being targeted is because you've got a Democratic governor, a Democratic attorney general, and you got Democratic mayors. We are doing everything possible to keep our cities safe through this unprecedented time. And at the same time, we have police officers that are tired. We've seen damage substantially because we're now having to pay a ton of overtime. Millions of dollars of emergency overtime for law enforcement. Emergency operations have been activated across our city and state agencies. pulling focus on daily core services that we, by the way, are tasked with providing. Local police officers are being diverted from the very work that we need to be doing, and small businesses are losing significant revenue, with some worried that they may not survive this at all. People are scared to take their kids into school or daycare, to go into work. They're going to have difficulty paying rent. There is no doubt in my mind the kind of action that the federal government is taking is not just mean-spirited. It's unconstitutional, and every one of us need to be standing up.
One more clip of the mayor of Minneapolis. Play this clip.
Let me give you another example. Just last week, a group of our city's public works employees were stopped by ICE agents. 3 of the 4 employees were not white. The ICE agents asked to see the IDs of the 3 non-white employees and didn't even bother to ask the white employee for the identification. Minneapolis is being targeted because we stand up for our neighbors and we welcome immigrants, because we believe in the law. And as I said, frankly, because we are in a blue city, in a blue state. Donald Trump should know, as long as federal agents are in our city acting unconstitutionally against our neighbors, we will continue to push back with everything we got.
Here's the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. Let's play it.
And I wish I could stop there, but I can't, because these poorly trained, aggressive, and armed agents of the federal state have terrorized Minnesota with widespread unlawful conduct. They're making unconstitutional arrests and using excessive force. DHS agents have barged into restaurants asking to access secure areas. And when asked to present a warrant, which is required by law, they respond, "We don't need one." DHS agents have arrested peaceful bystanders. They have fired chemical irritants at people obeying lawful orders while exercising their First Amendment rights. They have even done so at some of our most sensitive places, like Roosevelt High School here in Minneapolis. They have detained law-abiding citizens, leaving them handcuffed for hours just because of the color of their skin or what they're wearing, or they speak English with an accent. And on January 7th, 2026, a DHS agent shot and killed Renee Nicole Good, leaving her children without a mother and her 6-year-old son without either parent. This has to stop.
And here's one more clip of Attorney General Ellison. Let's play this clip.
So enforcing federal immigration law and fighting fraud are just pretexts for this surge. The real reason, it's no secret. Donald Trump and his administration have been targeting people, cities, and states that don't agree with them politically. He singled out Minnesota countless times. He's called us corrupt and crooked. He's attacked our funding to the tune of billions of dollars, which we are challenging. And we fought back, of course. He's attacked programs that Minnesotans rely on and tried to shut them down and pay taxes for. And he's attacked Minnesotans with despicable, racist, xenophobic language. The truth is, Donald Trump doesn't seem to like our state very much. But what's that about? He doesn't like our best in the nation, safe and secure elections. And sometimes he doesn't like who we choose in them. Just last week, Trump claimed that he won Minnesota 3 times, when in fact, he's never won Minnesota. He doesn't like how we take care of each other or how we make sure our kids have enough to eat. He doesn't like the strength that immigrant communities bring to our state. And he doesn't seem to like that we protect our neighbors no matter where they were born. In short, the Trump administration's decision to target Minnesota and Twin Cities is motivated by a desire to retaliate against Trump's perceived political opponents, who are the people of the state of Minnesota and Twin Cities, rather than any good faith concerns about immigration enforcement, public safety, or law enforcement.
So when you go to the prayer for relief, here's what's finally being requested by the state of Minnesota and the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Wherefore, plaintiffs ask the court to grant the following relief: declare the defendant's unprecedented surge of defendant's agents to Minnesota unconstitutional and lawful, hold unlawful and enjoin defendant's unprecedented surge, stop the surge of defendant's agents in Minnesota or any other similar action in Minnesota over the objection of the governor of Minnesota and mayors in Minneapolis and St. Paul, preliminarily and permanently enjoin, block, stop defendants from implementing the surge, and preliminarily and permanently enjoin defendants from implementing the surge in sensitive locations like health facilities, education, and areas that are really impacting the safety of residents as well. So there you have it, folks. Powerful lawsuit that was just filed in federal court in Minnesota. We'll keep you posted every step of the way here on the MeidasTouch Network. Now hit subscribe, help us get to 6 million subscribers, and thanks for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.